Well, you tell us when we're starting.
3, 2, 1.
Instead of starting with me, I'd like to start with my grandparents because this is a typical story of immigrants from Eastern Europe coming to the United States, and then I came along in 1935. We could not afford any out-of-town college, so I went to Brooklyn College, where I received an excellent education. Took a bus, and later on, when I got a driver's license at age 18, I would drive there, picking up friends along the way. The highlight of my Brooklyn College experience was the fraternity that I joined. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, we had a Zoom meeting, and we've maintained close relationships for all these years, and it's wonderful to have people who know you for 60 some odd years.
So how did you meet Mom?
It seems that there was a fellow who met Mom at a museum who told her that he makes parties from time to time, and she'd like to attend, and so she gave him a phone number. I met the same fellow at a resort, and he said the same thing to me. As he was leaving, I make parties, would you like to give me your phone number? And a month or so later, I received a call from him, as did Mom, and we met at a party which she almost did not attend. And for me, I could literally say it was love at not so much first sight, but first word. Because when this beautiful woman opened up her mouth and started to speak, it was musical. To me, her I wouldn't even call it an accent. I would call it a musicality. And right then and there, I said, "This is amazing. Not only is she gorgeous, but she's thrilling. The way she speaks and her." Anyway, so we started dating, and I guess she fell in love with my voice also. The interesting thing is, I never really proposed to her. We just kind of assumed that we would get married. We had a very small wedding, and there were two incidents that I remember there. One, she doesn't mind if I tell it, and the other one, she does mind if I tell it. And the first incident was, being a Reform rabbi, he wasn't wearing a yarmulke, a head covering. And my grandmother, kind of, as the ceremony began, kind of pulled in my sleeve and said, "I haven't put a yarmulke on." As he proceeded to say the various things the rabbi says, he said, "And do you, Irwin, take this woman to be your, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." Then he turned to her and looked at her and paused for a second, and she said, "Me too." And I just wanted to just right then and there, just grab her and kiss her. And that's what she thought the rabbi wanted to say. And then we had a very nice dinner at a restaurant which called itself the second most charming restaurant in the world. It was called the Penguin in the village. And when we asked what the first most charming was, he said, "Your own home." But home was not what Cecilia wanted to do, because she said, "I'm not going to push a baby carriage in Central Park, nor am I going to become a suburban housewife. So there. Wow, what's my alternative?" A friend of mine had said how nice it was to live in a college town, and went to live in Princeton.
And the first thing I want to know is, honestly, who's your favorite?
Well, throughout their lives, my favorite has been the one who gives me the least aggravation.
Oh.
And I wanted challenges for my children, and I got them.
You wanted challenges. Why?
Well, it kind of sharpens the relationship, because you learn from challenges. They learn from challenges. It brings you closer. I mean, if everything is smooth and all they do is listen to you all the time and follow, just grow up to be little yous, you want to see individual people, and you want them to have their own identities. What I'm proud of is that they're all Ivy League graduates. They're all exceptionally bright. They're all musical. They all had wonderful children. which basically meant setting up 8 college plans.
You did come from a very humble background, and then I remember when you started at Commodities Corporation, was this little stone cottage in Princeton, and you started out at what was a small company, and it grew into a huge company. And even though you were very successful, I always remember you being a very committed, present part of the family. I never felt like you were always out or anything like that.
Working in town not only allowed me to spend more time with you, but I was able to go to parent-teachers conferences, go to see your little performances.
Anytime there was a national anthem, a pledge of allegiance, you made your voice very clearly heard. Yeah, I do. And you just brought back those memories.
But nevertheless, as opposed to so many other parents, fathers who weren't around much, I was omnipotent. Not omnipresent.
I
was omnipotent also. A combination of luck and skill. The company were pioneers in developing computerized models of the commodities markets. We took different kinds of positions that were not generally taken, speculative positions, and we hit the great inflationary markets of the 70s when anything we bought just skyrocketed. And the company made a great deal of money. We had a wonderful compensation system where we all benefited from the money we were making, much better than any normal company would have. And so we kept all our traders as long as we wanted to keep them, and they became very successful, enabling us to sell the company to Goldman Sachs, and all of us owned shares, a lot of shares, and were able to retire at an early age. Things that I admire in myself and others. I like saying clever things. I think the highest form of humor is saying something that could possibly be true, but rather far-fetched. And the person you're saying it to isn't quite sure whether you're being funny or whether you really mean it. That to me is the highest form of humor. That's what I
oddly familiar.
Right? Another quality that I admire in both myself and others is brevity. Brevity in making comments at meetings or social settings or in writing. I attend a number of different seminars and current events meetings and stuff, and people start speaking and they go on, and all they're doing is repeating themselves or saying, I could say something in 2 or 3 sentences, make my point, and shut up. And I admire that. In fact, I think before I speak, how can I say this in the shortest possible way, or how can I write this in the shortest possible way? Other thing is finding practical, pragmatic solutions rather than those based on some kind of ideology. A religious person would say, let's trust in God to solve this, or a very conservative person would say, let the free market decide how this should be done. Or a person who is socialistically inclined would say, the government can do that. In other words, there's always some external way of solving the problem. And I like to think that let's take a path that solves it so that it does the greatest good for the greatest number of people.
I find it interesting that you didn't mention good values.
You, as my daughter, see me in one light. Mom sees me in another light. My tennis friends see me in another light. My former business colleagues see me in... This is true with everybody, not just me. So you seeing me in the light of having good values. Believe me, there are people who see me as having terrible values.
I think that's very point well taken. That's really funny.
So the things I don't like about myself.
Yes, please.
Okay. I am overly sensitive to criticism. I would like to do something about it, but I find it's very difficult to change. I suppose one changes when the consequences are so serious. For example, if a doctor tells you if you continue smoking, you're going to die. If your wife says to you, if you don't stop gambling, I'm going to leave you. Then it's possible to make the change. But if it's something like being overly sensitive to criticism, or liking to just other things that become habitual, the the way you chew that bothers your wife or something,
Yeah.
and or wanting to check the stock market every 20 minutes, make a risk reward calculation. You say, you know what? It might make her upset, but she's not going to leave me because I'm checking the stock market every 20 minutes. So, you just continue checking the stock market.
Just on that note, has there ever been anything big, like a big criticism, we can call it, or feedback that someone has given you that you took in and it actually changed your life?
As a matter of fact, I take great pride in thinking that despite some successes that I had in my life and whatever, I am really basically still the same person. Okay, to continue things I don't like about myself, I'm hung up on being on time everywhere. Luckily, my wife feels the same way, so it works out. I have the feeling that I'm insulting somebody when I'm late. My wife and I agree on that, perhaps to the extreme. Because we're always the first people meeting at a restaurant. We're always the first people meeting in front of a movie, because we don't like to be late. Now, if a person is 2 minutes late and or tells me that he had trouble parking, obviously not. But if a person is 15, 20 minutes late and doesn't offer a good excuse, I'm insulted. I'm very into randomness. I think that so much in life is pure randomness, and if we're aware of it and recognize randomness, I think it makes for better decisions and a better life. And what do I mean by that? I mean you don't get fooled by false correlations, thinking that they're causation. But the negative side of being aware of randomness is that you're so conscious of things that can go wrong that you worry about them. And so you're going on a trip, let's say just to the airport. I allow so much extra time going to the airport because the car could get a flat tire, we could hit traffic, the weather can turn bad. Now, the average person, of course, doesn't plan on going there 10 minutes before their flight leaves. Everybody allows some time. But I'm overcautious. I'm overcautious about so many things because I'm constantly aware of the unintended consequences of things.
Oh, so
things
you
that
want
could
to
happen.
prepare for all the possible random things that could
Well,
happen.
you should take a look at the at my toilet articles that I bring with me. I go away for a week,
No, thank you.
and I'm anticipating. I go away for a week,
I'll
and
pass. Does it have to be part of the interview?
I go away for a week, and I bring my own X-ray machine with me just in case I need an X-ray. We are all bombarded by random events that are happening all around us. The way we react to the random events is very personal, depending upon our values, our character, our intelligence. So it's not that everything is random. These bombardments are totally around us all the time. But we each take a very individual approach to dealing with those random events. Okay, that's important. Seriously, I think of all the things. I can have some stomach problems, so I take stomach medicine. I can have a nasal, so I take spray. I could have a sore throat, so I take forgetting that I'm not going into the jungle. I'm going to Orlando. You're heading to a movie theater. You're 3 blocks away from the theater, and there's a parking space there. So I'll say, you know what? Why don't I take the space? And my wife will say, why don't we find something closer? I will never go for something closer. I will take that space. Okay? Most people, or half the people, will say, yeah, this is too far. Let's see if I can find something closer. No, I'll take that space because I have the spot and I don't have to worry about getting a flat tire, having bad weather. I have that space and I'll take it. Okay. Here's one tendency that I have that Mom pointed out, and I have to agree with her. Yenta is a Yiddish word for somebody who asks too personal questions. As far as I'm concerned, it gives us an opportunity to get closer, to share things. But it can be viewed as being yenterish, as being, you don't do that. You don't ask that kind of question. One of the greatest compliments that I get when we go, let's say, to a lecture, or it happened a few times we were on cruises with various themes. Like one cruise we took was a volcanic cruise where they would take you to Mount Vesuvius and all these volcanoes in Italy, and then every night we'd have a lecture. And I prided myself on asking good questions. And for me, it was at the end of a lecture or something, the lecturer would come over to me and say, you asked me some really good questions. To me, that's one of the great compliments that I could get.
What are you really most grateful for in your life?
Without a doubt, it's my wife. Because I hate to use the expression blessed. It doesn't resonate with me. But I am not an easy person to live with. And she manages to put up with me. She manages to cater to my crazy eating habits, to my laziness, just so many things. My yenterish, my being a yenta, all these things that I have, and she puts up with it. And that's on one level. And then you look at her and you listen to her. I mean, she's absolutely still gorgeous. She's absolutely still desirable. I look at my friends' wives. They're all old. Just and I'm so grateful to have this as my mate for 55 years. And that's the thing that I feel most grateful about.
Aww.
And she knows it. I'm not just saying it for the camera.
How long have you been married?
55 years. The first 48 years are really tough. But afterwards, it's just a piece of cake. So once you get over the hump of 48 years, no worries. My generation has by far been the luckiest generation in history. Why? We started out when college education was available I paid $35 a year for a first-rate college education. Never had to take out college loans, okay? Graduated. Immediately got a job in my field, accounting, never had to worry about unemployment or looking for a job. In the job, the careers, always opportunities to advance. I mean, as long as you're reasonably good, move up, never had to worry about being replaced by a computer or being replaced by a robot or anything like that. Socially, having the ability to meet people, given a choice of who you want to marry. Then having children and being able to afford to pay for their college education. Being able to afford to buy a house on average salaries. Housing prices at that time, Balsam Lane cost me $42,000 to buy that. Being able to have Social Security and the biggest blessing of all, Medicare. You don't understand how we haven't paid a penny in medical expenses. All Mom's operations, all my operations, my heart attack, my appendicitis. So from cradle to grave, we've been taken care of. We had all these opportunities. And when I look at the world today, when I see what people have to go through, paying off hundreds of thousands in college loans, having trouble finding jobs, not being able to afford to buy a house, having to live with their parents for longer than, or in their parents' basement or whatever. All these people without medical coverage. At our time we had a medical plan that paid for all our bills. It wasn't such a big deal. I mean, we might have to pay $50, $100 a month taken out of our salary, but it was wonderful. So we consider ourselves, big thing, we, because of our age, I was too young for the Second World War, too young for Korea, too old for Vietnam, and then too old for anything after that. My generation, sure, we had to serve our time in the service, but we didn't have to go to war. So we got past that whole thing.
Wow.
We never had a Great Depression. Yes, we had some downturns in the economy, but we never had the Great Depression. So we consider ourselves, that generation who were born in the 30s and 40s, were absolutely blessed.